Hi, everyone. My name is Reed Shepard. I'm the Deputy Director of Planning and Development Services here at the District of Lunenburg. I'm going to give a brief presentation talking about the ongoing municipal-wide land use planning project. We've just started doing some meetings in the community and here at our municipal office, but this video should help people who may not be able to come out to a meeting or may not be able to come out to one for a little while. So this will just provide a bit of an overview of the project and what the process is going to look like. This project involves the creation of a couple of different documents. Those are called the Municipal Planning Strategy and a Land Use Bylaw. The Land Use Bylaw is really what the regulations that people might think of as zoning, and that would involve putting zoning on all the different properties within a municipality. This work is being done because the province of Nova Scotia has mandated that every municipality has to have land use planning documents in place. They passed legislation in 2018 and 2019 that said that those municipalities in the province that did not have full zoning on all properties needed to do so. So they provided some timelines and some requirements that each municipality has to do. And so the District of Lunenburg is undertaking that process now. Part of that, those requirements that are set up by the province are that the planning documents that are created address the 5 statements of provincial interest, as well as the other components that the province requires, and that every property within the municipality has to have zoning on it. There are benefits to putting planning in place, as well as meeting the province's minimum requirements. Those are that the community gets to have a say on how growth and development should happen in the future. There's abilities to strengthen the local economy by providing predictability and certainty when people are making investments. There's ability to minimize future land use conflicts between uses that might not be appropriate. Part of this can address things like improving the protection of the environment, as well as protecting things that people don't want to change and guiding development in those ways. So just touching on the 5 statements of provincial interest, as the province indicated, as I mentioned previously, there are 5 specific pieces that must be addressed in the planning documents. The first one being drinking water, and that's really about protecting the sources of drinking water. So in our municipality, the town of Bridgewater, the town of Mahone Bay, and the town of Lunenburg all draw their water from lakes which are within the district of Lunenburg. The District of Lunenburg's responsibility is to provide land use planning and zoning around those lakes. There are a few pockets of areas that have zoning now, but as part of this work, there's a need to address the land use which is occurring on the unzoned portions around those lakes, with the idea that those water sources need to be protected because that's a water source for not just the towns, but also some residents within the district also utilize those water sources as well. The next piece is around housing, and that's making sure that municipalities are providing adequate housing and opportunities for different housing. It's making sure that the rules that are created are not too strict, that are preventing housing from occurring in the areas, making sure that we're addressing all different types of housing, not just one type of unit, but different opportunities for different folks that need different things. Flood risk areas, which is not as much relevant for our municipality at this moment. Along the coastline, there are already rules in place that talk about areas that are at risk of flooding, but inland areas of our municipality currently aren't mapped in terms of what areas are at risk of flood risk. That's something that will have to happen in the coming years as required by the province. Agricultural land is an important piece of this work. The province basically outlines that the municipality needs to have policies that protect agricultural land so that it's not all developed and so that there is soil and land area remaining for the future use so that we have a vibrant, sustainable food industry and agriculture in our community. The last piece is around infrastructure, and that's making sure that municipalities are efficiently using their water and sewer systems. And so some of that is to reflect the fact that water and sewer are very expensive infrastructure to provide and to maintain. And so that the type of development that is occurring in those areas needs to be efficiently done, just so that those services can be provided in a sustainable manner. One of the most important things to make sure that people are aware of is when we're talking about putting in new regulations. People are wondering what happens to something that I have on my property today. And the answer to that is anything that is in place in terms of a use or a building can continue to exist perfectly as it is without any need to change anything. So a lot of people think of this term as being grandfathered. Anything that results in these new rules and regulations that are contained in the land use bylaw will only affect things in the future. So the land use bylaw cannot change, cannot tell people to change something that has already been there. This is really only a forward-looking document that can tell, that dictates what happens in the future. So if someone has a business or if someone has some buildings on their property, or that don't maybe don't meet what the new requirements are, that's perfectly fine. It's more about what does that person maybe want to do in the future and if that meets what the requirements have. In terms of how this will affect residents and their properties in the future, one of the key pieces to make sure everyone is aware, and this is really about what the province is requiring, is that every property must have zoning. What that zoning looks like is entirely up to council, who are the final decision makers in this, as well as all the input that's being gathered from the community. As I mentioned earlier, future uses in buildings will need to follow the new rules, not the current ones. So it's really about thinking what are the developments, and what are the new uses and things like that we're thinking might happen in the future. And these are the rules that would apply to those situations. We also have a few pockets of our municipality that have zoning in place already. So if people are familiar with Hebbville and Blockhouse and Riverport, a few other communities have small geographic areas that have zoning and land use planning already in place. So in terms of how this might affect those areas, largely those will remain unchanged. There may be some policies in this new document that could affect those areas, but largely the zoning and things like that on individual properties in those areas is proposed to remain unchanged. Now, having said that, every planning document, whether it's a land use bylaw or municipal planning strategy, has to be kept updated and maintained over time. So just like the new document that will be created, all of those other planned areas will need to be updated and maintained and incorporated into the new document over time. So we can foresee that we'll be coming to those communities in coming years to update and make sure that those plans are current and better integrate them into this new document. But that will be a future project to do. The last piece to note here is that zoning and the rules that govern land use can and should be changed over time. So they need to reflect the current situation that's happening. Once zoning and land use is set in place, there's a structure to how that could be changed. So people might have heard of something like a zoning amendment or development agreement, site plan approval. Those are different processes that are used to, in some cases, have a bit of control over development. So when you're thinking about large scale developments and things like that, those are different processes where people can apply to council or sometimes a development officer to get certain things approved. But the thing to be confident of is that there are abilities to change what's there in this new plan in the future. So people can always apply to change a zone for whatever may come down in the future. And there's always that ability to change things going forward. In terms of the process, it's really important to clarify that at this time, no decisions have been made. So people would probably be aware that there has been a first draft that was created. And we've heard a lot of feedback from residents and council on that first draft. Council has passed a motion that they want to revisit all of the content in that first draft. There are a lot of things that they felt and the community has felt are maybe overly restrictive or not in the right direction. And so the whole point of this process now is to gather input and feedback from residents and make sure that the process incorporates all of that. So there will be a lot of opportunities for people to provide input. On our Engage page, we do have a survey. We'll be developing more ways to provide input. We'll be coming to every district in the municipality. We're also holding just an open house, a standing open house most Thursdays here at the municipal building, and we'll be adding more and more to that. but people should just be aware that there will be a lot of opportunities to provide input. Council are the decision makers in this process. They are the ones who will ultimately make a decision about what they'd like to move forward with. And they have committed to spending the amount of time that is necessary to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to provide input and the process is done well. Another piece here is to make sure that people know that residents will be informed and engaged and heard in this process. So in the next few months, what we'll be doing is talking to community members. We'll be going out to every district in the municipality. We'll be collecting a lot of input from people through surveys and comments and discussions. We'll combine all of that into a what we heard report, which will be delivered to council. And then that's going to help inform the next draft of this document. So as we look forward probably to the fall of 2025, that's when we can see residents will be able to see, here's the input that I provided. I see it reflected in that document. And then they can see the process that council is going through to provide the direction that we at the staff level need to then work on that next draft. And all of the drafts that are created in the future, that process can be repeated until council is satisfied that they provided enough input and they found the right balance that's right for all the communities in the District of Lunenburg. In terms of what those next steps look like, as I mentioned, we'll have that what we heard report, and then get some direction from council and can continue to provide drafts in the future. As I mentioned, we're coming out to the community now in the spring of 2025. But once there's a second draft available, we will come back to communities to show them the changes that have been made based on the feedback they've provided. And if there's more changes needed after that, then that can happen and more can be created as needed. Once council is satisfied with that, they can move on to the creation of a final draft. And then there's a formal kind of public hearing process where council does that final approval and adoption of those documents. Ultimately, the documents then go to the province, so the Department of Municipal Affairs. The Minister of Municipal Affairs provides the ultimate approval of the final planning documents. So ultimately, at the end of the day, this will go to the province. What the province will be looking for in those documents really is about whether the municipalities have met the province's minimum requirements, as well as those 5 statements of provincial interest that I mentioned earlier. So again, as I mentioned, we're going to be coming out to every district in municipality. We have those kind of standing most Thursdays we'll be here at the municipal office from 3 till 5 p.m. when people can just drop in and have a discussion about planning, provide some input and comments. But here we have a list, of course, about all of those upcoming open houses and events. We'll be on Big Tancook Island in June. Blockhouse is just getting confirmed now, so we will have updated stuff as soon as that's nailed down. And then we have all the other events. The last thing I'll mention is on May 14th, that's a Wednesday, we'll be doing 2 virtual open houses, so 10 to noon and 6 to 8 p.m. So on that day, folks who can't make it out to one of those in-person events can absolutely drop into that. We'll have an opportunity to provide a similar presentation to this, but also have some question and answer and be able to talk with staff about maybe some specific questions that that people may have and provide some input as well. So I'll leave it at that, but thank you very much for your time, and please feel free to be involved in this process, and you can always reach us either at our website or at one of the open houses, or you can always drop into the municipal office and speak to a planner about this project. Thank you very much.